Ko Kate Hiatt, aho. First, I would like to acknowledge Te Aotearoa, the tangata whenua of Poniki. That's where I am speaking from today. I'm the Creative Spaces Advisor for Arts Access Aotearoa, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you all as we explore and ignite possibilities. I have pale skin with freckles. My hair is curly and grey and comes to my shoulders. I also have a fringe which covers the lines of my forehead. Today I'm wearing glasses with dark grey frames and a bright green paisley shirt. Behind me is a colourful painting by artist Declan Jack from the Shift Creative Space. I'm of Irish, German and English descent and was born in Sydney, Australia. I lived my childhood immersed in the ancient bush, the waterways and beaches of the Royal National Park on the traditional lands of the Dharawal people. I moved with my whānau to Aotearoa about 15 years ago and now live with my partner on the wild and wondrous south coast of Poniki, looking over the Orongorongas. We have 3 inspirational children, aged 31, 29 and 27, who live in Melbourne. In this session, Living Your Values, Sarah Yule from the Centre Manager at Te Aotearoa, based in Raumati Beach, Michelle Dawson, Founder and Facilitator at CSR in Invercargill, and Jackie Moyes, the Creative Director at Homeground in Poinaki, will speak about the power of membership, co-design and process-driven practice. We will hear from each of them before we come together to dive a bit deeper into how values underpin all their work. Values that are driven by the core belief that to flourish relationships, they are built on mutual trust, mutual exchange, respect, and whanganatanga, the connection between people. There'll be time for questions, so we encourage you to put these into the Q&A as the session progresses. We're also joined by our NZSL interpreters. Thank you so much. And a huge thank you to Dan and the team at Connect Interpreting. So it is with great pleasure that I pass the baton to Sarah Yule from Te Aotearoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I'm Sarah. I'm a Pakeha woman with medium length brown hair, some greys coming through. I've got a blue top on, and behind me there is a landscape painting with some trees, and there's also a beautiful picture that my 7-year-old did of some hills and some rainbows. So an introduction to Te Aotearoa. We are a creative wellbeing centre in Raumati Beach, Parapara-Umu. We promote positive mental health in our community, and we do that through a variety of creative classes, so art, music, dance, writing, and also wellbeing classes, so cooking, meditation. In the past, we've also had yoga, Reiki, and walking groups, so very kind of holistic approach to mental health. We are the merger of 2 mental health service providers, so a lot more kind of formal mental health background. In 2013, they merged, became an incorporated society, Te Aotearoa. So we are a peer-led mental health centre. Myself and the majority of our staff, we have our own lived experience of mental health. So there's that real empathy and understanding and personal investment in the centre. In terms of how I got here, in 2007, I started with a fledgling young adult service with IDS Services, which is the service arm of IHC. It was considered really progressive at the time for a reason which is quite bizarre now, but it was really one of the first services across the country that put the person at the centre of service delivery. So we transitioned young adults out of school into the day service and asked them what they wanted to do with their time. So it wasn't us setting a program and telling them what was valuable, what was important, what they needed to know. They all came with the skills they wanted to develop, the work they wanted to move into, the study they wanted to do, and we facilitated that. It was also a creative space before I knew what a creative space was. And so we did dance and drama and music and writing. So the result was a service that was really driven by the people that used it. We emphasised skill development and independence, and another kind of bizarre goal at the time was that we wanted to make ourselves redundant because these individuals were so independent. And by the time I finished in 2012, about 80% of them had moved out and through, and were living completely independent lives in the community. I also established the first self-advocacy committee nationwide. So we had individuals coming from across our area, and I was teaching them the Code of Rights because a lot of them didn't know what their rights were when it came to receiving a disability service. And I felt that was really important. So they came together and they discussed that, and also any issues or anything they needed support with. And yeah, it was a very kind of empowering and collaborative kind of environment. So through that experience, I really found what my drivers were. I found what my value was and my passions, and it was very much kind of steeped in service delivery that was based around empowerment and independence, making sure people's voices were heard, a lot of co-design, a lot of collaboration, and a real atmosphere of trust. In 2020, I accepted a creative writing tutor position with Te Aotearoa because that was my other passion. I've studied and facilitated therapeutic writing classes in the past. So I very quickly took on then the centre manager position after that. So my talk is on the power of the membership and how that aligns with living your values. So as I said, Te Aotearoa is an incorporated society. That means everything is a democratic process. So when people want to attend Te Aotearoa, they sign up as a member. They then have voting rights. They decide who's going to provide governance support for the centre. It's in our constitution that at least 50% of our board have lived experience with mental health. And again, that creates that empathy and that understanding and that personal investment. So yeah, the members decide that. The power is kind of in their hands to decide who provides that governance support. In a practical sense, in terms of the day-to-day, our members decide our classes, they decide our program. We get regular feedback from them in terms of what's working and what's not working. When I started, I formed member meetings once a month, which were modelled on the self-advocacy groups from ID Services. So there are no staff present in those meetings. It's a safe space, and it's facilitated by them, and then it gets reported back to me, and any changes that need to be made, I work on that with the staff. They also have recently had input into our new logo because we needed a logo that represented them, and so they voted on a new logo. We've also updated recently our vision and mission statements, and they were presented options or had the option of writing their own vision and mission statements. And for me, I feel that if a vision and a mission statement doesn't resonate with the people who use the service, then it's not the right vision and mission statement. So yeah, it was really important to me to create an environment of trust and mutual respect. This aligns with my values and also the centre values. A lot of trust, respect, empowerment, inclusion, independence. And in terms of how that feeds into the power of the membership, we want our members to have an increase in confidence. We want them to feel empowered, and we want to be really strengths focused. A lot of our members come from a formal or a traditional mental health and intellectual disability. They've come through the systems, and those systems have been quite disempowering. They feel like their voices have been muted or oppressed. They haven't been respected and listened to. And so at Te Aotearoa, they are the drivers. It's the opposite. They are the drivers, they're the decision makers, and we are the facilitators. I have an amazing team of staff, and we're all very much on board with, we really believe in empowering our members to be the conscious creators of their lives. So we will facilitate, we tutor, we support, but at the heart of everything is our members. They are at the centre. So in general, I feel, having come now from both, backgrounds, creative spaces are a lot more progressive than traditional service providers. I feel like they're deeply entrenched in living their values and empowering their artists, and they really understand doing with, not doing for. There's a real passion in the creative spaces sector, and advocacy and self-advocacy are also kind of at the heart of it. So to me, the power of the membership looks like a service that is run by the people who use it, where their voices are respected and their experiences, that they're being heard, and they know best what a service looks like and how it should run. So yeah, I'm really proud of Te Aotearoa and the ethos and the values that we live by. I really feel like they do, and we do, embody the power of the membership. So that's it from me, and I will now hand over to Michelle.
Kia ora. Kia ora koutou. Ko Waitohe toku awa, ko Piripiri toku maunga, ko Te Aotearoa o te tau ihu o te waka te iwi, ko John Livingston Tahuaroa taku papa, ko Maxine Black taku mama, ko Michelle Dawson taku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, Sarah, for sharing your awesome mahi on the Kapiti Coast. I really, really liked self-advocacy and rights and the power of the membership. I'm just going to ask if the wonderful tech team could please play a little short video of our studio at this stage. Just, to give you an idea.
Small art studio that's for people with disabilities. We have about 45 people coming to one of their classes per week. We've got like 6 classes. And in that time people come along and they express themselves, and it's really about self-worth and it's about well-being. So we find that if people begin to make choices about things as small as whether it's red or blue, that extends out into their lives as well. What else can I make choices about in a safe way? And it increases people's confidence, it increases people's value in the community, and participating in like a classroom type situation where people are similar, like-minded, kind to each other. It's not rocket science. It's a very good thing.
Makes me feel good, and I don't only do these sort of things. I do various paintings, mixing with the people and that, because I live on my own, so it's company.
It's a word that's sort of bounced around a lot lately, but it's inclusion, and it's about everybody being part of something that's bigger than just yourself. And it's also about having value in the community that is over and above maybe something that these guys don't necessarily experience all the time. And it's about what can be done, because our guys have a lot of limitations because of their condition, because of their environment, necessarily so because they need assistance. But here, art doesn't, those boundaries aren't here. So the rules are fewer and they get to explore that, which I think has a huge impact on some people. It's pretty important. It's a window into people's soul, and we don't take that privilege lightly. It's pretty sacred, and we hold it with kid gloves. It's, lovely.
So that's us. As I said, I'm Michelle Dawson from CS Art in Invercargill. For those of you with low vision, a short description of me would be that I'm of average height with reddish brown curly hair and brown eyes, wearing a teal top. I'm part Māori with Scottish heritage as well, so I'm olive skinned but also ruddy and robust. I'm of above average build. If I were a USB, I'd have extra storage capacity. I am the co-founder and program manager of CS Art Wharetoi, which operates in Waihopai, Invercargill. And as the film said, we have about 45 artists each week. Yes, I'm from Invercargill, albeit honorarily, as I'm married to one. Yes, we roll our R's, and yes, we constantly talk about our dirty purple work shirts. We have 6 studio sessions with between 4 and 8 people per class. I've been involved since the start, which was 2004. And in 2024, I'm going to have a big party after 20 years of this. We'll celebrate. The other co-founder of CS Art, who's gone off to do other exciting things, visited a creative space in Wellington in the early noughties called the Art Compass. And when she came home, she told me about it, and we decided that we were going to just start a little class and invite some people along and sort of donate our materials and rent a room and volunteer for 6 months until we found out that you could apply for funding. And so we roped in 5 good-natured souls to come and be trustees. And from there we grew as word spread to 3 days a week, 6 sessions. And as I said, 45 current artists. We will be open more days in the future. It just comes down to time and availability for tutors. So the artwork that people produce is artist directed, meaning that the cues for the direction of the work come directly from the people creating them, which means that people have a very personal connection to what they're making. And that's really important to me. We occasionally run a lesson plan class, although that's not where my personal interest lies. I want to know what makes an artist tick, what people are into, what drives them, what motivates them, what lights a fire in people, what inspires people. I want personal connection between the artist and the work they're making, because it's just so unique and individual for each of us. We can't help it. We come out when we produce art in any form. I mean, we can have the same lesson, but produce the exact same lesson, but have an entirely different outcome, even though we're producing from the same lesson. So we can't help it. Ourselves just come out, and I love that. I believe that the arts is a bridge between worlds, which enables people from all walks of life to express themselves, feel like they belong, and have worth just for being themselves. I love having a voice for people, being mana whenua for people. I've built a place for people to come, to belong, to fit in and create. And that is just such a huge blessing for some, including me, because I'm one of those people whose needs are met alongside those who attend CS Art. I'm aware of my own need for this place, and so I'm able to speak about the effect the studio has. I'm told this is called lived experience. Being the youngest of 7 children from Porirua in the 70s, which is a very different Porirua than that of today. We're a family of artists and musicians, which sounds quite bohemian in a way, but I actually think we use the arts as a way to make sense of the world. I didn't go to university. I didn't even finish high school. Until very recently, I had no qualifications, and certainly nothing to substantiate my chosen career path. I grew up in a fairly dysfunctional family with addiction at its core, and consequently all of the unhealthy habits and attitudes that go along with that. So there's been lots of work in a long and bumpy road. There were mental health issues in all shapes and sizes, but there came a point in my life where I had the choice to continue that road or choose something different. And so in my recovery in 1997, I started in recovery, and because of that, I started my work in this sector. I believe that the best resource we have are people, the ones who run things, the ones who attend, and the ones who operate the overseeing charitable trust. So CSR is governed by a board of trustees of 5 people, plus myself as secretary treasurer. We meet, make decisions based mostly on my recommendations and primarily for the good of the continuation of the studio. At an operations level, the board of trustees are open, friendly, and they get it, with 3 of the trustees having adult children who attend our sessions. The remaining trustees, 2 of them have worked in the disability sector. I think because of my roles in operations and governance, things are quite transparent and smooth, because anything that's happening within the studio that the governance part of it needs to know about, it's just easy. We just communicate. It's open and, as I say, transparent. For me, the main difference between operations and governance is operations is the day-to-day stuff, and the governance scope of it is the policy making and how we adhere to those. And Kate, you kindly sent out an email defining what values might mean, and these words stood out to me: mutual trust, respect, reciprocity, and whanaungatanga, close connection. And we were talking about it yesterday, and I think that governance is the thing we need to do in order to do the thing we want to do. So our mission statement is to encourage people with limited access to the arts to participate in the creative process, giving them a voice and another form of communication. So that pretty much describes our values and how we live our values. And every decision we make, that might be a new policy or it might be a new thing we're bringing into the studio, we kind of look at our mission statement and go, is it relative to that? Is it going to be in conflict with it? Or is it going to strengthen where we stand and we're able to build on it? So I think, to me, leadership is transparent, approachable, has mana, is accountable. Leadership's it's a tricky thing, but if you can just stick to those things, use humor and integrity and creativity, make people feel comfortable and welcome, I think that there's sort of no end to this. I think that creative spaces should be available for everybody, whatever their walk of life and whatever they've gone through. It's a very good thing. I have a heart for this work because I understand the power it has to build people's lives into something good and new, and that comes from my own experience as well. And there comes a great freedom from such a simple act as letting your creative self have a bit of playtime and follow the stepping stones laid out by that process. There's kind of a, wow, look what I made moment, and wonder what else I can do. And it's about growing a sense of self-worth, I believe, of well-being and value. Ngā mihi nui, hei kona. On that note, I'd like to hand over to the lovely Jackie from Homeground.
Oh, kia ora koutou. Thanks, Michelle. That's an awesome handover. And thank you, Sarah. And thank you to our amazing interpreters. This is awesome. So, kia ora, I'm Jackie Moyes. I'm the creative director at Homeground. I'm calling in from Te Whanganui-a-Tara, Wellington, from our workshop space, because we're actually in the middle of a big 3-week-long Homeground project toru right now. So, ko Jackie aho, I am an Aotearoa born, Irish American, Scottish Pākehā in my 40s with red hair, and my pronouns are she, her. I have big, bold, gold te wheki octopus earrings and a dark green t-shirt with a fat orange Homeground logo on it. I'm excited to be here and proud to be representing the Homeground Collective at the Ngā Wahi Awaha Creative Spaces Conference 2022. So I love those intros from Sarah and Michelle, and I'm going to attempt to introduce Homeground and my journey to Homeground. Homeground is a creativity and wellbeing initiative for women in the justice system. We deliver projects in the community, and we also deliver projects in prison. We have a really collaborative way of working. So we have obviously a core team. I'm going to share some beautiful people here. So we've got a picture of our core team. We've got Anna Walls, who is our creative producer. We have Tana Pohe, our wellbeing navigator, and Roseanne Liota, who's our creative advisor. I'm showing a picture of the team just to represent that I'm here as a creative director, but there is a big crew behind me that helped me in my leadership. Homeground encourages participants to value the strength in their life experience, to tap into their creative purpose, and to reconnect with community. The thing we have in common often with the justice system is a severe experience of trauma from our life history, but also from the system itself. We have a lot of grief. We have a lot of things we have to process, like institutionalization. So I'm going to try and talk about Homeground's particular brand of magic and how we respond to some of the issues women in whānau face. Homeground was created in response to the social problems we face in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that are highlighted inside the justice system. Inequity, racism, trauma, addiction, mental illness. All of the things we have in the community, but are highly, highly visible once we get into that system. We aim to empower communities through creative experiences and activate social change as we create better lives for ourselves and future generation. The initiative is always sort of divided into 3 projects each year. Project Tahi, which is in the community, Project Rua, which is normally inside Arohata Prison, and Project Toru, which traditionally was across both spaces. Arohata means the bridge, and so what we wanted to do was create a program that worked across multiple spaces. So if the worst thing happens and people go inside, they can still connect with us while they're inside the prison. We use creative arts practice, such as theatre, rāranga, clay, photography, creative writing, music, as a non-threatening, strengths-based approach to self-empowerment, community connectedness, and well-being. If you want to sort of learn more about Homeground, you can visit our website, www.homegroundnz.com. That provides a lot of stories and pictures around what we're doing, and also live music and short films. We've been really lucky to have core funders such as Creative New Zealand. They've understood the value of community-based arts practice, and we've found that around 70% of the participants on our program in the community have never experienced an art project before. The ones that have tend to have done so inside the prison. So I guess Homeground was a bit of a response to understanding how much our community needs to do in order to make people feel included, to feel human, to feel like they matter. And I do honestly think that the creative process in the arts is one magical way of doing that. So we have these 3 projects a year, generally funded by Creative New Zealand, but we also have a contribution from the Department of Corrections, who understand that trauma-informed practice centred around women is actually what needs to happen in order for women to feel like they have autonomy and control to go ahead and just change the future. We obviously acknowledge the huge systemic challenges that are faced, and so we do what we can to advocate for social change. But we do believe it starts at home around the kitchen table. My leadership style is not much of a leadership style. I'm very much into the collective. I struggle with leadership. I am really lucky that over the last couple of years, we've had an amazing crew come on board. So when it comes to things like policy, which I find really hard, Roseanne, who was on our pilot project, Kahukura in 2019, is now our creative advisor, and she writes our policy. This helps me stick to our core principles, which I'll just say a few. Creativity matters. We believe that. Do no harm. Most importantly, nothing about us without us. All of us have lived experience of some form or another. Honour the wisdom of lived experience. It's a really important journey for most of us on this project to understand that there is beauty in what we have lived. and strength through connectedness. Without connection, we can't form communities, and it's a really important part of our work is reconnecting. Trusting the process, have to do that. It's really tough, but we do it all the time. So we have these core projects. We also, thanks to the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, Manatū Taonga, they funded us to expand into online class territory. So COVID has massively shaped our project, our delivery, our community. We also run 3-day care projects where we'll go out into the community. So when you're released from Arohata prison, often you can be released to anywhere. It could be to Te Tairawhiti, could be Manawatu, could be Ōtautahi. So we try and follow women that we worked with over the years home to those spaces to support them to start growing their own community. So we've just finished a week-long project in Tūranganui-a-Kiwa in Gisborne with Hoya Gallery. It was an amazing experience. We were very blessed to be working in that space. So that's what we do each year. We also run an artist hui, and the artist hui explores the homegrown kaupapa and our practice in the justice system. We can all be great artists, but we really need to know how to hold space, how to facilitate, how to de-escalate, how to be trauma-informed and really understand what that means. We really focus on collaboration because then the women have access to really high-quality, awesome artists, and they can create work that they're super proud of. When we look at advocacy, which is a core part of our work, I believe that women really need to be able to speak their own truth. And so Homeground was also a response to me not hearing women's voices, not seeing women prioritised in the justice system, them not having the space to be themselves and discover their own particular brand of magic. So we started doing short films, public speaking. We did a Fringe Festival last year. And this year we've been working on our resource books. We have great collaboration with the Dream Girls who helped us create this beautiful cover of 3 women in different colours representing the range of wahine that we all are. And inside these books, they're actually written by women on the project for women in the justice system by women in the justice system. More recently, we also just developed a workbook with 5 Eva. That was a collaboration in response to the prison being locked down. We have not been able to get back in since last year. So we're working on a workbook that we can send out by post and we can receive back through post. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up because I could talk forever. But I'd just like to have a massive shout out to all the people in the space doing this work because it's been a tough time and we're all still here and that's awesome. Kia ora. I'm going to hand back to Kate.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, everyone, for those extraordinary stories that you're providing. I think that the most profound thing is listening to the deep, deep belief in the work that you do. One of the components of this conversation today is about that, about your personal values and how they influence the work that you do. I'm interested in how, and perhaps this is where we can just start this conversation between us, how with those values coming into your space and that you're developing your mission and your vision statements, as you were talking about, Sarah, and all of you, how do you ensure that they're instilled in all of the mahi that is happening within the space? How do you hold that as leaders?
I can speak to that if you want.
Yeah, sure. We can just swing the conversation around.
Sorry, I've got notes and I've also got a candle burning and I just about set fire to the house. So
oh, excellent.
Everything.
So if you suddenly exit the room, we'll know why.
Yeah, slightly panic. So yeah, I mean, I guess it is ensuring about in every facet of how you run your creative spaces, those values are instilled. And so that comes from hiring the right staff, you know, making sure that you get a feel for who you're hiring and whether or not it resonates with them, those values. definitely creating an atmosphere that reflects those values. And yeah, I mean, I guess for us, because we're so strongly focused on getting that feedback from members, checking in with them to make sure that what we are doing does align with our values, because they're going to be the ultimate, I guess, judge of whether or not we are, running a service that does align with that. Yeah, so, and I guess for us, we have indicators. So because we are very much independence focused and empowerment focused, we want people to move through the service. We don't necessarily want people to remain stuck, So a great indicator of success for us is that people come short term and they might be in a really bad space mentally, and through skill development and building that confidence and that support, they then transition, and they move back to work, and they move back to study, and they move back to their place in the community and in their families. And so I think that's an amazing indicator for us that those values that we are built on are actually working.
And Sarah or Michelle, Jackie, have you got any further things just to talk about your, Jackie, you did touch on your leadership style, and there's, as we know, there's lots of styles of leadership. It's not just top down, which often in creative spaces it isn't. How do you ensure that sense of your own leadership and your own authority in the most beautiful way can be instilled in allowing a smooth organisation process?
I'd just say that it's about the people you surround yourself with too. Like, we're quite privileged in Homeground that we are fresh. We're little babies in the creative space sector. We started as a pilot, and then we moved into growing our whānau, I guess. And so we've still got a lot of people that started on the pilot program who are now working as emerging artists or kaitiaki of Homeground. I think for me, the big shift when we all received the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, or some of us received the funding, was suddenly just going, actually, I have to be a leader. And that was the real challenge for me. And I think it was knowing that I had someone who'd been through the justice system writing my policies, who will always have women front and centre. And it meant, it meant really engaging every time we have a project in the morning and afternoon. We have, we set our objectives for the day to make sure that everybody's voices are heard. And at the end of the day, we do a reflection where we check to see what we did good today, what we might do different. And so it's kind of built into the practice, that reflection and that awareness. I think as a leader, for me, if I didn't have that, I really wouldn't know. So it's really about the crew that I surround myself with. I think I feel really blessed to have them. Does that answer that?
And for Michelle, thank you very much, Jackie. For you, Michelle, you work with, is it just yourself and one person? How do you find that? How do you work together?
It depends on the person. I think that in terms of leadership, it comes down, for me, a lot about self-belief or lack thereof. So I struggle with being a leader as well, because sometimes I just don't think I've got it in me. So it means that I need to surround myself with people who will support me and say, actually, you can do it. It's fine. Don't be silly. You've got it. And just have those conversations with people I trust, who can just give me some nice, clear direction on where I'm going. I had a conversation once with my friend who said, well, maybe you should just be the boss. I thought, well, that's really simple, but yeah, I'll give it a go. So the people I work with are varied over the years. Currently, actually, I'm working with my daughter. And I thought that would either really, really work really well, because we're similar, or luckily, it works really well. We're able to even discuss things at home. Hey, such and such did this at work, and what do you think about that? And maybe we could do this differently in order to provide for that particular person, which will help them. but ultimately help us and everyone else in the room as well. So, I've lost track of what the question was, Kate, but will that do?
That's the whole idea about having a conversation, isn't it? We just go off into the where we are in particular places. And thank you very much for that. Sarah, how do you work with that? You talk about the membership driven, the power of the membership. You're quite a diverse space. You've got different workshops coming in all the time. How do you work that as what you would call in your centre management role?
Yeah, I guess I'm quite fortunate with my background in self-advocacy, because for me, the leadership hierarchy is kind of a little bit the other way around. So basically, I feel like the members are at the top, and they're guiding the service. They're telling us what they want to do at their time and how they want things to run. And so for me, I feel like you can't really go wrong if you know that you're listening to them and you are building a service around what they say they want and what they say they need. And so really, I feel like they are the leaders of the service. And as I said in my intro, we are the facilitators and tutors and whatever the role may be. But I feel like they are very much the leaders of the service. Because that is what a successful service is to me, is one that is built upon what they're saying they want. So that makes my job, smoother.
It makes it smoother, I'm sure, but also there are moments within any organisation, with any where there's moments where you would have to come in and step up and make maybe tough decisions. And then there's also those moments where situations within the space might arise that are difficult and challenging. How do you, I'll open the floor again, how do you deal with that? I know, Sarah, you've talked a lot about how important it is for your staff to have training. And so I'd love just to open the floor to discuss how that works.
Well, I guess just leading on from what I said, so part of the leadership role is definitely making sure that your staff are living, or are working in alignment with your values. And I guess I'm fortunate really that we have hired really good staff who do kind of embody our values. It can be challenging. I know Jackie kind of said, well, not so much of a leader, it's more about a collaboration. And I think that's how I kind of approach it too. It's not necessarily being like the authority and you must listen to me. If you're creating the right environment, hopefully that respect and that trust of your team kind of naturally, grows and naturally is there.
Thank you. Jackie, did you want to comment about that?
I think that's the thing when you're working in the community, though. It's like you say, there are some calls that need to be made, and especially when you're working in the justice system, like mostly, and unfortunately, mostly it's in the system you work in where the calls have to be made. It's that understanding the impact of that system on the people you're trying to, share your creativity with. But I do think that, we created our artist hui each year because it's so hard to be, I think artists are sometimes expected to be everything, like facilitators are expected to be everything in this game. We all love our own art form, but we're also expected to hold down a space, facilitate, deal with problems, be great leaders, write the policy, do the budget. It's this crazy mix of things that we all have to do to stay afloat. So I think for me, upskilling our crew around things like de-escalation and understanding trauma-informed practice is how we deal with it. But I do, I've had to make some hard calls around the best for the crew, best for the group, especially when you're working with multiple personalities, what is best for the group right now. And I guess it's like you say, Sarah, allowing that to come through and make those choices based on your principles, if you go back to them, you're always going to make the right choice. You know, if I'm like, oh, I get offered this cool thing I could do, but I know that there's a risk to it or there's harm that might come out of it, then I don't do that, you know, because that's got to be one of those underpinning rules. Yeah.
And Michelle, for yourself, how do you go about facilitating your own nourishment as a professional within the sector? Do you have moments where you can do some of your own PD, or yeah, how do you do that? Because you've been there for a long time now.
That was a really great question at the start, because we used to call it energy drain. Because you'd come home and be, and not know what to do about it. And I think we had to learn how to self-care and what that means for us as individuals. For me, it means I've got a studio at the back of my own space where I paint and play the guitar and mumble and sing and natter away and scribble stuff and just let it out. And I also am part of other sort of self-help groups, I guess you'd call it, in my recovery, where you can just let it out as well in a safe space. Safe space is paramount. So again, it's having people around me who support me and encourage me and enable me really to have those spaces that are beneficial and necessary for me to continue what I'm doing. Because without the self-care part, I would crash and burn pretty quick. I know this, so I'm just aware that I need to put things in place that, even if I don't feel like doing them that day, like going for a walk, stupid walk, then, you know, I just need to do those things. I pay the price if I do not. That's about it.
I'll jump on the back of the self-care. I wrote some things down because I was thinking about, oh yeah, how do I do that? That walk, I'm like that stupid dog walk. But really, if I didn't have the dog walk, I wouldn't be holding it down. But I was thinking about taking the space to settle. I think if the leader or whoever's seen to be the leader doesn't take the space to just settle and be there, it is hard to stay well in the space. Understanding that healthy relationships come first and that you will not let work derail your life. You know, you'll make active choices to keep your life going outside of work, which, you know, as someone that's into the performing arts and projects, it's like all consuming. And the other one was whānau first. You know, we have to have our own whānau first rule, and we have that for everyone on our projects. So we run between the 9:30 and 2 p.m. so that we can actually manage as women with our kids and our whānau. And to make the mahi matter, to understand that what we're doing is enough, you know, because you want to do everything else, but what we're doing is enough, and it's a beautiful contribution to our communities.
That's a hard one. What we're doing is enough. When do we stop? You know, when don't we take it home with us when we're so committed to this? And as you said, whānau is so important, and that's what I love about Arts Access too. That is always how we centre everything in what we do. I was wondering, with the values, and you talked definitely about instilling that within the mahi, on an organisational basis. How do you ensure that your trustees are holding on to that as well? You spoke somewhat about it, Michelle, but perhaps, Jackie, for you, you've got an umbrella organisation. That's a structure that you're working under at the moment, is it?
I work. So Homeground is actually it comes under an umbrella trust called the Community Performing Arts Trust, who are a phenomenal group of people who have been around for quite a while, and they support me. They can guide me and help me, but they're quite I wouldn't say hands off, because they're there and present, but they sort of understand that Homeground it has its own energy, particularly with women we work with and the way that we work. So with an umbrella trust, obviously we check in, we have regular meetings, but they are really there as a support group, if that makes sense. yeah, that's how we roll. I feel very blessed to have them as almost as advisors, like a panel of advisors. We have a lawyer, an accountant, Galen, who used to run a creative space. So we're very blessed to have that kind of relationship.
And it's great that you do have someone in the umbrella organisation that understands what a creative space is too. Sometimes with their own umbrella organisations, particularly if they're part only, that the creative space is only a part of what they do and on a broader scale, you don't have that complete understanding about the mahi that creative spaces are doing and the different challenges that you guys are facing.
And I think too we've been lucky to have multidisciplinary crew on our board. So Barbarian Productions, who are theatre makers and community developers in themselves, they really are such a positive force in terms of putting things in the community that shake things up. So they love a bit of shake, which I also appreciate. Yeah.
We have got one question. We've got about 7 minutes remaining. Thanks to the tech people for reminding me about that. I think the question might be towards you, Michelle, maybe to you, Sarah, as well. Are your students, and perhaps we can talk about that term in itself, required to do any homework? I suppose that might be work outside of the creative space after their tuition, if that's perhaps what the person who's raising this question has asked, or you could perhaps, in referring to this, you could talk about the way the work that you do is about the process rather than the product, because I don't think we really touched on that. So that perhaps can inform this question.
I can speak to that if you like.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle.
So without process, there would be no product. And each person, I think, has a different expectation of what their artwork is for. Some people are really, really highly regard the final product, and some enjoy just having the playtime. And I've got one student actually who throws away his artwork all the time. It drives me nuts because I'm just want to go and fish it out of the bin. Because he doesn't see value in it. It's not perfect, it's not completed, but he's not seeing the steps that are coming to go to inform the next part of his journey, I guess. So I'm kind of in a quandary with him that I'm going to just kind of show him new ways, show him what stepping stones look like, rather than the complete outcome. Having said that, because each person is different and because we all have different expectations of what art can be, some people really, really want that final process, and that's fine. That's cool. The final product is your deal, do it. But if it's the process and you just did 10 pieces of scribble, I don't care, do that. It's about what the individual wants to do and how art expresses itself from wherever they've absorbed it and out through their hands. I hope that answers that question.
That's great. And Sarah, did you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, I guess it's interesting as, my background is in therapeutic writing and running classes around that. And that is very much using writing creativity as a way of processing emotions and experiences. And it is very much focused on the process and what that process kind of unlocks in you. In saying that, at Te Aotearoa, I feel like we've got a good balance because we do recognise the process as important, and a lot of that mental health and well-being, is really, we're using creativity as a tool to kind of work towards that. But in saying that, there's really a lot of pride in producing something that is amazing. And we have amazing artists. And, a lot of them, they sell their work. We're about to be in the Kapiti Arts Trail these first 2 weekends of November. And we have amazing art to display. And so the process is really important. And obviously that's the heart of what we do in terms of, mental health and well-being. But the product is also incredible as well. So yeah, I think it's a good healthy balance where they do feel actually that pride when they've completed a piece, and they've learnt new skills, maybe learnt something that they wouldn't necessarily have looked into themselves. Yeah, so I do think it's about having a good balance.
We do actually have just another question, which probably works into what you were just referring to then, Sarah, and that's about the work can't always be voluntary, but it's then referring to the participants. The participants can't always pay. Often the creative spaces are free, and that's been one of the underpinning components always of creative spaces. Some have to have fees depending on which program is being offered. Do you all do free? No. I can see a shake of their head there, Michelle. How do you work there then?
We decided early on that we would charge a small amount, just because we felt like otherwise it would be easy come, easy go attitude. I don't care, I'm not going, I don't have to pay, whatever. So we thought we'd just charge a wee amount, and it was about $4 for every session or something like that, way back in the day. Now it's $8 per session. So that covers all materials and covers everything. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So
it's a hard call, isn't it?
It is a hard call because participants can't afford. They can't afford me. Ask my husband; he can't afford me either. The question of how do we pay ourselves is a good question, because we, in our CSR, we have to get funding in order to do that. So that means that we have to put in our funding hat. Like Jackie was saying earlier, we're sort of doing everything, and most of us have to apply for funding to pay ourselves, I think, in my experience. Anyone else have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I had to work a job that paid me to do the job that I want to do now. So I was working 2 jobs for the first couple of years, like I think, I mean, for me, and I look back now and I go, yeah, Jackie, good on you. But really, was it sustainable? I mean, we're lucky now we're in a position to be funded. But yeah, there was so much hard mahi in the beginning. And still now, I'd say I don't get paid for all the late nights and early mornings. But I do love my mahi. And this year, we're in a position where I can just be paid to do the work, which is a huge blessing after 3 years. Yeah.
Sarah, did you want to? I think you were jumping in there before too.
Yeah. Out of time, so just really quickly, we run on a Koha system simply because the vast majority of our members couldn't come. They really have zero disposable income. So yeah, we fundraise, we get donations, and we apply for grants relentlessly, or else it would be a real barrier to our members. Yeah.
So coming to the close of the session now, I want to thank the 3 of you, really inspiring leaders of the Creative Spaces Network. What I'm hearing from each of you is how deep the values that you hold within yourself are just brought forward to nourish those that you work with. And yeah, hats off to the 3 of you. And I'm looking forward to continuing this journey together in another kōrero. Thanks, James.
Kia ora, Kate.